Sir Hope.
Best jersey in the league.
It is fantastic, I'll tell you. Oh, give us a StopConcussions.
The number 29.
That's crazy. Good setup.
Pleasure. Thank you. Welcome. Grab a seat. We'll get started in just a moment.
Thank you. A little bottle of wine.
So, Kerry, welcome to Urban Alley Docklands.
Great to be here, bud.
Now, you were born in Winnipeg, but you quickly found a love for hockey through junior roots hockey, and in 1988, you won the Allen Cup, which is the senior ice hockey championship of Canada, with the Thunder Bay Twins. Along with ball hockey, where your Winnipeg Grasshoppers represented Manitoba in 8 national ball hockey championships and winning it in 1989, for your outstanding contributions, you were inducted into the Canadian Ball Hockey Association Hall of Fame in 2006. And then earlier in this year, you were inducted into the Manitoba Indigenous Sports Hall of Fame, along with the Rink of Dreams Hall of Fame slated for later this year. These ball hockey skills helped you to transfer into an incredibly successful ice hockey career. This career was 7 games shy of playing 650 games, amassing a whopping 641 goals. Now that is 2 shy of 1 a game. Now you totaled 1,997 points. Arguably, your best season came in 97-98. At the age of 38-39, in 52 games, you scored 99 goals, 137 assists for a total of 236 points for EC Timmendorfer Strand. That's almost 2 goals a game and just over 4.5 points a game. With this impressive career, the club retired your jersey number, 29, in November of 2003. I'd like to know, Kerry, what drives your passion to invest so much energy into playing ice hockey, especially international hockey? And how did you find yourself playing in Germany?
Well, thank you for acknowledging these accolades. I was very blessed. I had a mother that really believed in being a sports person is one of the best things you could ever do, and falling in love with ice hockey with her. She was a speed skater, and she allowed me to dream. Once I got to skate with her, she would take me out on this oval at -30 in Winnipeg. It was in St. Vital Park. It was kind of a figure 8, and I'd be behind her. She'd put this scarf around her waist, and I'd be on these bob skates that had 2 sets of blades, and at 3, just icicles everywhere. And that gave me the passion. I just loved it. I felt the blood, sweat, and tears of a sport that I would be able to play for decades. And so that was really the driving force. My mother gave me the passion, and I was given a pair of skates, and these skates became my passport to the world. It allows me to be anywhere around the world at any time. Here I am now in Melbourne, coaching the Melbourne Ice and meeting great people like you, Parker and James. And of course, I'm here with my very good friend, Paul Rosen. The game was really a sport that allowed you to be free, to allow you to be the best you could be, because most people can run and kick a ball and play rugby and maybe cricket and golf. But I found it so intriguing that you're put on these blades of steel and you're going anywhere from 25 to 35 kilometers an hour in this almost like an oval. You're closed in, you can't get out. You can't run out of the playing field. You had to stay within it. So you had to learn how to skate. You had to learn how to pass. You had to learn how to shoot. You had to learn how to deke. You had to learn how to get out of the way. You needed to learn how to hit. And all of that while traveling at these incredible speeds. You had to think very quickly. I've told you a few times when we got together, I got to grade 12, I passed grade 6 twice. So my education was going to take me to be a doctor, a lawyer, a dentist, but it gave me an opportunity to explore the world outside of just being an ice hockey player. So the passion was my mother's dream. My father was a very good father. He just wasn't very much into sport. He absolutely supported me 100% along the way. But the game gave me so much. And even today at 65, it keeps giving back. And so I owe it to this game and to the people that play it, the people that watch it. People paid money to come and watch me play hockey, ice hockey. How could I not give back? How could I not sign that autograph? How could I not be a part of their pleasure of watching this great game unfold? Anybody you bring to an ice hockey match for the first time, and they've never seen it before, they may not understand the rules, but man, they fall in love with it quickly. The speed, the dynamics that are involved with you having that puck and moving the puck and shooting the puck, and the goalies like Tatsu's making these incredible saves. You know, the little bit of biff that goes on. Man, you can't ask for a better sport that has blood, sweat, and tears written all over it.
Now, being involved in hockey and ball hockey are not without its challenges, downfalls, and injuries. Your teammate, Robert Valfour, has suffered a broken neck, leaving him a quadriplegic. Setting you on a new path and igniting new passions with a focus on spinal injuries and concussions in sport, you and former Philadelphia Flyers captain Keith Primeau became founding fathers of StopConcussions. Your work with StopConcussions helped relaunch the Shoot for a Cure campaign with the help from Barry Munro of the Canadian and American Spinal Cord Research Organisation. Shoot for a Cure is an international campaign which raises funds, increase awareness and assist in the prevention and cure of neurotrauma injuries. Your own work with StopConcussions has helped develop the Safer Sports Prevention Program with your good friend, Paralympic gold medalist Paul Rosen. Safer Sports focuses on three main pillars of awareness, actions and attitudes, adopted internationally, including the German Ice Hockey Federation and Ice Hockey Australia. How important have these initiatives and programs been for you? And you can speak on the work along with the people involved.
Well, yeah, thank you. Again, having the opportunity to have ice hockey as the vehicle for me to do things outside the norm, it gave me a life, gave me a job, gave me an opportunity to take, as being a player in the game and a fairly good player, it gave me a platform that would allow me, and also I was given the gift of gab, so I took all of those skills that I learned while I was traveling the world and turned it into helping those that couldn't help themselves. Of course, you mentioned my very good friend, Robert Valfour. He broke his neck in a swimming pool accident. One day he decided, all the boys on my team went down to a little town called Grand Forks, just over the border from Winnipeg, and it's a university town, and I couldn't go that weekend. They went out and had a little bit too much fun. He decided at a late morning to jump in a swimming pool. He broke through a door in a Holiday Inn and dove into the swimming pool, and unfortunately it was the wrong end. And as he hit the water and was laying there, there was an older couple that realized, hey, the door kicked in, so they walked in and they found Robert laying in the pool. They pulled him out, and Robert knew right then that he was paralyzed. Life-changing, not only for him, but for his family, for his girlfriend, and of course, his friends like me. Life changed in an instant. And that helped, believe it or not. His trials and tribulations helped me to understand that life can change in an instant. And so take advantage of it. And if you are so blessed to have the opportunity to play a sport, listen, he would battle just to breathe, or to go to the bathroom, or to deal with the pain. Whereas we deal in normal circumstances what golf course to golf on, or what restaurant to go to, or which movie to watch. He would battle just to live, and we would battle just to, for the first world problems that we all have. So he really instilled in me the understanding, along with my mother and father, that it's important to give back, to help those that can't help themselves. And that was a true blessing, though, for him. Obviously a devastating change of life. He helped me grow, and I helped him grow. I stayed with him for his entire life until we lost him 35 years after the accident. I can remember being at his funeral, and they asked me to do his eulogy. And Robert was one of those guys that would give the shirt off his back. And he was my line mate and played with ball hockey, just a tremendous athlete. And I remember flying back from Toronto. I was in Germany, and coming back through Toronto, I was writing this big long speech about, what he meant to us and to myself personally. And I got to Winnipeg, hadn't seen the people that were sitting in the crowd for maybe 20 years. I'd been back every summer since that accident, but it would only fly in and spend time with him in the quad floor at Grace Hospital and Deer Lodge Hospital. Then I would go home quickly, so I couldn't get to see everybody as much as I wanted to. I remember standing in front and seeing a couple of people I hadn't seen for quite a while. And I had the speech ready to go, and I said, no, this is wrong. This should come from the heart. I put the speech down, and I in tears said, Robert called us here today, and there's a reason why. And the reason is he wanted to teach us a very valuable moment, and that moment was that it's not what you collect along your journey, the scoring championships, the trophies, the Goodall Cups, the Allen Cups, whatever you win in life, cars, houses, boats, family members. That's not what makes your legacy. Your legacy is what you give back. And from that moment on, I decided that I would give back in his name and work tirelessly to help people that either dealt with neurotrauma, which deals anything with the spine and the brain, and ended up starting an organization called StopConcussions, as you mentioned earlier, with Keith Primo, arguably one of the top power forwards in the 2000s. His game was ended by it. He had to retire from concussions, and I stuck with him and helped him through those very hard times. My career was not ended by concussions. It altered my life, no question, and it changed my perspective on what truly mattered. I went through horrific times after my concussion, and back in 1988 when I suffered my first real documented concussion, it was nasty. I lived through hell, and through that time frame, I was institutionalized. They dealt with me with schizophrenia. They thought I was dealing with bipolar, and it ended up being that I had damaged my brain in an accident in Germany. They gave me a drug, I think it's called Dimetrol, and all it was to do was to lower my anxieties because they thought I was suffering from depression. And I had suicidal thoughts, never tried to commit suicide, just would have these weird dreams of people killing themselves within that, in my dreams. And when I wrote the book Concussions, I kind of talked a little bit about that, wasn't very open, because you're vulnerable. When people hear that, they tend to think mental health issues. No, I suffered a concussion. And everybody in these days, they call them conkies, and some people are very proud of had 12 conkies. It's nothing to be proud of. A concussion is only a sexy word for brain injury. I damaged my brain, and I didn't have the proper treatment. And when you're going through that, I was in this dark tunnel, and I couldn't see the way out. And unfortunately, we lost a lot of people along the way that couldn't see that light at the end of the tunnel. And I was blessed to have great people around me at the time. Alexa Capacci, my girlfriend in Germany, my absolute most favorite doctor, late Willie Rocker, who's no longer with us, loved the man dearly. He walked me through it. And what was crazy about that particular situation was when I suffered it and I was dealing with it and on drugs, I'd flown back to Germany. And the psychiatrist that was working with me in Canada wanted me to go back because he knew I identified as a hockey player. And so when I went back, the first month, I don't remember being there. I dealt with a lot of anxiety, obviously with the drugs that they put me on. My father had to literally fly over with me, hold my hand. I can't remember exactly, 30 years old, and I was dealing with traumatic nightmares. And yet, when I went to the rink, you wouldn't know anything was wrong. I was a pretty good actor. I battled through it, and thank God I had my dad. Listen, I couldn't wipe my bum, for God's sakes. That's how bad it was. But when I got on the ice, it just freed me, and I could do what I needed to do. So from that and all the people that we've lost along the way, obviously my sister who I lost, who I love dearly, Karen McCarthy Goulet, she lost her battle with mental health, drugs and alcohol issues through trauma, and I knew that's my calling. I knew that because I was given a gift of the gab, that my voice could be loud. Some people sometimes, as you know, Parker, you're a very big presence, they kind of look at you and they think we always want to be on the spotlight. But there's a reason for that, because not everybody can pick up a microphone like you can and talk to one person or 3,000 people. We can do that. And so we needed to be the voice. And that's why through my trials and tribulations with concussions, the mental health, watching people end their lives, watching people suffer through the grips of the illness of alcoholism, I needed to do something. I needed to do more. And that's why I do what I do.
And we love you for it. And you did touch on the book Concussed. In 2012, your book Concussed was published, and it was co-written by Keith Primo, shining a light on identifying, managing, and preventing concussions. Now, having suffered 3 documented concussions of your own, and likely many more than that, Concussed paved the way for many sporting institutes and sporting professionals to look seriously towards concussions. The book becoming almost an encyclopedia of knowledge, not only for players, but parents and coaches regarding concussions, breaking the stigma around them. Prior to the book's release, much of people's knowledge around the treatment with concussions was limited. Concussed seemed to pave the way for many people looking at concussions and traumatic brain injuries with more respect as TBIs and concussions were put on the map, prompting many professionals to bring knowledge into the forefront, including a movie in 2015 starring Will Smith called Concussion. With concussions now being more socially accepted, especially in sports, with identification and management programs such as CAT6 assessment tools adopted by the likes of FIFA, the International Olympic Committee, the FIA, and International Ice Hockey Federation. With 12 years since your book Concussed was released and a rewrite slated, is there any pressure to step things up now with more information available than ever before? And what can readers expect that will set this new iteration apart from other publications?
Well, thank you. What I think is really interesting is that when people heard that Kerry Goulet wrote a book, they were looking for the crayons and keep within the lines. It was a really serious book. I had never partaked. I've never written a book before. I've only read 5 in my lifetime. So it was kind of interesting. Here I am, having the education that I had and now writing a book with Keith Primo. And how that happened was I was having a seminar in Edmonton, Alberta, talking about concussions. There was a TV show that they were broadcasting to talk about the cause, effect, and consequences of the injury. And I got a phone call the day after, and it was a gentleman that said, "Hey, listen, I'm a book publisher. I listened to you speak about concussions. I went into the library. I couldn't find anything about personal concussions. I found out a lot of the medical stuff, but I really wanted to find out more about the insides of an athlete's perspective. And I really liked what you talked. Would you be interested in writing a book?" I phoned Keith, and Keith kind of chuckled and said, "Us write a book?" And obviously with ghostwriters, they helped Keith along his way. He's a very intelligent man, but very busy. Myself, I wanted to do it on my own, so I did. I think I wrote 20,000 words, and they took out a lot of the dots and got down to about 12,000. And it was a remarkable process to not only be able to interview. The book was more about other people suffering from it. We wanted athletes and people that maybe suffered this invisible injury to understand they're not alone. And some of the signs and symptoms are not book written, right? There are a lot of people that know the medical components of it. It took us a long time to get there, but the average person didn't know if their son or daughter or their loved one or them themselves were suffering from concussions, because there's a lot of times it could be feeling like flu symptoms. You're nauseous, you're sensitive to light, your equilibrium's off, you're frustrated, you're irritated, maybe a little bit moody. So you can't just pinpoint that to concussions. There's a lot of other sicknesses you can have through that. So it's important for us to allow the common folk to understand you're not alone. It's a serious injury, and you have to get proper diagnosed, and most importantly, the proper management. And that's what Concussed started out as, just a general dump of information, a lot of stories from players from all different types of sports, all different types of accidents. One accident was kind of funny, but yet, if you think about it, there was this young lady that called me out of the States, and she wanted to understand why she was still suffering with this concussion for over a year. And she was telling me the story about what had happened. She had a Buddha, those heavy Buddhas, on a bookshelf over top of her bed. And the people next door in the apartment played really loud music. And it kept shaking. And this Buddha, over the time, got to the edge. And one day it fell while she was sleeping and hit her in the head. And she had to be raced to the hospital. Believe it or not, we hear about concussions. And here's one. So those type of stories are stories that we need to tell. And it's not just a professional athlete that's getting hit. It's all of us. Concussions are 24/7. They're around us at all time. We can't take weekends off because they don't. So it's really important that we really be in front of this injury. And it's taken a long time. There's a lot of controversy. There's some people that said we're hypocritical for trying to stop hitting and headshots and that. We know that in your game of AFL. These are brains. Like if you break a leg or break an arm and you put a cast on it, you know it's broken. We're breaking our brains. We just can't see it. And so, it's a headache. Come on. As a young man, I was taught to suck it up, play through the pain, win at all costs. And so I had a headache, take some aspirins, but we didn't know what the long-term effects of that was going to be until people started to realize we were damaging our brains at a very alarming rate. And that's when Keith and I wrote the book, to allow people to say, wait a second, we need to take a better look at this. We, as the parents of those young children, we're the adults in the picture. Our responsibility is to make sure that we protect what God's given us. One of the most precious gifts are your children's brains. And that's all we're asking for.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Now, not all your philanthropy has been accredited to your works on concussions, identification and intervention. Also, your love of sharing your passion for hockey and help bringing it to the masses here in Australia by the way of introduction of the Canada versus USA Ice Hockey Classic in 2013. Bringing incredible games of hockey starring NHL legends, along with a magnitude of superstars from leagues worldwide to raise awareness and funds to stop concussions. These games have been played in stadiums in major cities around the country for over a decade. With a hiatus of the Canada versus USA Classic since the pandemic, many are asking, when will we receive the return of this incredible event, and what can we expect, and can we get Mario Lemieux and the Wayne Gretzky to, one more time, for old time's sake, get them back together, or is Mario's back just not up to it anymore?
Well, yeah, it was an incredible run. We had 9 years of bringing the Ice Hockey Classic here. Of course, we know that the pandemic has put a halt on it. After that was done, we saw the NHL come here, which was incredible, here in Melbourne. And I was really blessed that we were accredited when Wayne Gretzky came here. We, through TLA and TEG and StopConcussions, myself, to bring that incredible event with Gretzky here. It just paved the way for the NHL to understand there's an incredible market here for the game. And so we have tried to resurrect it. It's a difficult process because you got to get all these facilities to match up. We'd love to bring Gretzky back. He's not skating at this moment. I've heard that Mario's not skating either, so we'd have to get a little younger than those guys, like maybe even Stevie Yzerman. That may be a possibility. Crosby when he's retired. Maybe Brent Burns will come back. He was truly amazing. But I think it's important. There is such a love. There's such a passion for this sport. It's almost, I don't want to call it a cult sport, but it's a sport that people just love. And Australians love action. And what is hockey? Ice hockey. It's action. So we will be bringing the sport back. As you probably know, I have 2 rinks sitting up in Adelaide in containers that move around the countries. We've been to Brisbane, Adelaide, obviously Sydney, obviously Melbourne. Perth was absolutely incredible. We've now been in Auckland. We've been in Queenstown. We've been in Dunedin. We've been all over the South Pacific promoting the game. And I think now what we're going to see is, because of the NHL being here, there's going to be more demand. And the NHL games will only happen in, say, Melbourne or Sydney. It won't travel like we've traveled. So we're just going to be a byproduct of that, helping to bring that game that everybody loves to the smaller markets and allow them to see, okay, there won't be NHL teams, but there'll be some NHL players, former players from the NHL, AHL, East Coast League. Look at like Austin Albrecht, plays in the East Coast League. Hell of a hockey player. He's an entertaining guy. Kramer played in the NCAA 3rd Division. Hell of a hockey player. As we've seen throughout the season with the AHL, there are a lot of really good ice hockey players that are playing in those Tier 2, Tier 3, Tier 4 leagues that are very entertaining. And so the goal is to continue on with the Ice Hockey Classic. My goal is to definitely do Brisbane and Perth, because we know as soon as we announce it, they're sold out. And we're really working on Queenstown. I've always wanted to do an outdoor game. We tried it in Wellington a few years back. Didn't exactly have the success we wanted to, but we're ready to go back and do it. And we think we're going to be able to secure an outdoor game in Queenstown. It's really cold there, so it's easy to freeze ice. But you can be looking for something that's going to happen in 2025, and we're really excited to make those announcements after we get through this next couple of weeks with the Goodall Cup, and hopefully we're hoisting it here in Melbourne, and then I can really devote my time and energy towards that.
Well, we look forward to that. Your professional career has been supported by so many people throughout the years, none more so than your wonderful wife, Tony Mill. who has stood by you not only through the highs, but some of your biggest lows as well. And in 2017, you were both wed. This is a bit of a two-part question. However, can you speak on how important to you it has been having Tony in your life and what it's like to navigate the complexities of living on opposite ends of the world? What challenges do you both face and how do you overcome them?
Well, she is an incredible woman, and she sacrificed so much for me in the sense that this journey that we're on right now is my journey. When I met her, she didn't even know much about ice hockey. And one quick story about her, that Team Canada had just recently released its team for the 2014 Olympics in Sochi, and a camera got in front of her face and said, "Well, hey, we just heard," and we were at that time doing a book, a magazine, and they got the microphone in front of her and said, "What do you think of the announcement of Team Canada for the Olympics?" And her answer was, "Wow, I'm really excited to see all those Canadians on the team." And we stopped and thought, it's Team Canada. Like, who else would be on the team? I knew then it wasn't her favorite sport, but she was a Leafs fan, so that explained a lot about it. Wonderful human being, allowing me to be me, and not trying to change me, but making me a better me, and allowing me to do the things that I do, and sometimes really crazy and off the wall. And we got married in the Hockey Hall of Fame. Our good friend Paul Rosen was there and experienced it. It was probably one of the best weddings I've ever been at or in. I was married once before, but it was an incredible bash. It was all hockey too, believe it or not. We got married. There's the Stanley Cup. We had a bunch of NHL former stars there, and we partied like rock stars thanks to Wayne Cowley, who's been a big friend of ours at the Bottom Line. But it just shows you that two people can come together and join their lives, but not change. She is who she was when I met her. I am who I am when she met me. We're better versions of each other because of each other support and love. And yeah, we've had some really good days. We've had some really nasty days, but it has been that ability to be best friends, to be able to say what you want when you're happy, when you're sad, or when you're mad. You know the old adage, don't go to bed mad at each other. Well, I can tell you what, we do it all the time. And we wake up happy for some reason. So I think a good marriage is that. Don't try and change your partner. She never did that to me, and I never did it to her. Allow you to believe in what you believe in and support it. It doesn't mean that she has to be a part of it all, but yet she chose to be, and it's been absolutely a truly blessing. I would not be here right now if I didn't have the wife I had. Very supportive. She left, she allowed me to leave her back in Canada, come over here, battle through the trials and tribulations I had last year, learning the landscape of the new league with the AIHL and obviously the surroundings with the Melbourne Ice. And she stayed home with her father, who she's the princess of Tony. Tony's her father's name, and I just couldn't take her away from it. So we had to do this long distance relationship, and it's worked. Here I am today. She's with me to hopefully experience this incredible journey to win the Good Old Cup. And when I do that and achieve that, whether it's this year or next year, it's all about her. She gave me the opportunity to be here, and then on top of that, she's also been very supportive of the friends around me. You know, Paul being here, of course. Scott Holler, I forgot to mention. Scott Holler from Shift Concussion Management. When I started and wrote the book, he was there all along, and he educated me about concussions. He was at the wedding, and when the wedding was finished, he came up and said, "How did you do it? How did you do it?" I said, "What do you mean, how did I do it?" "Kerry, you're married at the Hockey Hall of Fame. How many people get to say that?" I said, "Well, look at her. She's the only way I would have got here." And Peter Jagler was actually the guy that convinced Tony to do it at the Hall. And well, it's all about ice hockey. I even got married in it, so it was a blessing.
That's fantastic. We'll have to put a photo up of the wedding photo at the Hall of Fame. That'd be fantastic.
I had 20 groomsmen. They were all dressed up in hockey jerseys. It's a pretty cool picture.
That's fantastic. Now, a lot of people have heard the expression, happy wife, happy life, and it seems like you take on more of a mantra of happy spouse, happy house.
Yeah, you know what? I think that's really important. I think people tend to forget, you're bringing two personalities with a bunch of another landscape around it with mother-in-laws and father-in-laws. I can only say my mother-in-law, who we no longer have, was a beautiful woman, supported me throughout, made me feel like family. Her dad, who's 89 years old, who's like a strong Eastern European from Estonia, big mitts, worked the ground, which I never did. I got soft mitts. Just made me feel like a son. And my mother, who was a little bit different of a human being, my wife never met my father. Paul knows my mother very well. A very strong, 5'2", staunch Scottish woman. She was pea and vinegar all along until she passed. Just fell in love with Tony, which was a blessing because there was no family issues to deal with other than my sister dealing with drugs and alcohol, which was really tough. And I can only say Tony was an absolute rock, as was Paul when my sister was on her final days. I couldn't have gone through it without Tony being there at every moment, and I know Paul was there, Scott Hall, like so many people there to prop me up. We all go through tragedy. We all go through the ills of life. We lost my mother 6 months later. We lost my sister 36 hours later. We lost her mother 6 months later. We lost her sister to a very nasty disease called Parkinson. It was ugly. So within that very short year and a half, I think it was, we lost 4 of our most important people in our lives, and yet we were solid. We cried, we laughed, we broke down, we fell down, we got up, and we made it our mission to have them looking down on us, being proud of us. It's not how much money we make. It's certainly not all those things that I talked about, the accolades you get. It's what you do to people. I'm a big hugger. I love hugging people. And those hugs sometimes can create issues for you, but you know what? We deserve a hug, because I'll tell you what, there's nobody more that I want to hug than you, because you've got that same personality where you just want to make people happy. Why are we here? Hey, why are we here? We're here to make other people happy. Make yourself happy first. But then there is so much controversy, war. We've got first world problems. There are people dying in the streets all around this world that shouldn't be. We need to stop all this craziness. We're put on this planet to love, to have peace. War is not part of that equation. We have to stop this rhetoric, and that's why I think people need to hug more and to talk more. Take 1 second out of your busy day. Everybody now, pick your phone up. Phone your mom, phone your dad, phone your friend. Phone that person that you really don't like, but you need to make the apology. If you haven't talked to your mom and dad for years because you've been fighting with them, phone them. You don't know, that call may save their lives or lives around the world. And we don't do enough of that. And I think that's my mission, is not only to hopefully make a difference. My legacy is, I'd rather read on my epitaph, he was a good dude, versus he had $8 million in the bank. I don't have $8 million in the bank, and maybe I'm a cool dude, I'm not sure. But that's really what it's all about. And I hope that if any of this gets through to somebody, take time. Smell the roses, as they say. But take time to help those that can't help themselves. And you'll feel so much better the next day.
Absolutely. Now, 2023 saw you take on the role of the head coach of the then struggling Melbourne Ice, who only amassed 3 wins from 20 games in 2022. It must have been difficult for you to come halfway across the globe with your wonderful wife, take on that position from Sandy Gardner, and settled into a new chapter in your life. You've been quoted as saying you believed yourself to be ambitious in your opening season, amassing only 10 wins from a possible 26, with the back half of the season really showing any real promise. Fast forward to now, and the team looks like real contenders for the Goodle Cup this year. At the end of the 23 season, saw Tony return to Canada to continue her own incredible works, leaving you alone with a monumental task ahead of you. What pressures did you face at the end of your first season as head coach, not only from the club itself, but from fans? What was it like mentally to go through, and how do you remain focused and driven?
Wow, that's a very loaded question, and I think we have to look at it as, here's this, I'll take myself as a third person. here's this guy that's got this incredible resume, won a bunch of championships, won a bunch of scoring titles. Some people called me arrogant, but arrogance comes with the fact that I wanted that puck on my stick to score that winning goal. And if you don't have a little bit of ego, you sometimes lose the moments and may not be able to achieve with that confidence. Some people may call it overconfidence, but when I made the decision to take on this task, there were a lot of people that looked at that resume and said, piece of cake, Gooch, you're going to win the Goodall Cup in the first year. Had a lot of buddies back at home that said, yeah, you're perfect for the job. I didn't know exactly, even though I'd been coming here for 9 years, I didn't really know the landscape of the Melbourne Ice and the AIHL and the extent of how it is classified as a professional league, but yet it still needs a lot of growing. This league's been around for a long time. The Goodall Cup is the third oldest trophy played for ice hockey. So I just automatically thought, wow, everything's in place. Certainly not criticizing anybody, but from the leagues that I came from and I coached and obviously was not only a player, a coach, a general manager of these leagues, they were actual professional leagues that were run by businessmen who had a profit to turn, right? And the AIHL, though it has a couple of those teams in, a lot of them are more board run, like directors run the team. So when I got here, it was almost ironic in the sense that a year beforehand, I was offered a pretty good job back in Hanover, Germany, to be the head coach. And I thought long and hard about it. I can't say anything other than I had an incredible career with many people helping me. It wasn't alone. The players I played, Mark McKay, Marvin Glazer, Andy Pritchard, these guys were icons in the game, just made me better and allowed me to be me and play and coach and actually manage teams even while I was playing. It was difficult to think that I would go back with an untarnished record, people saying, wow, he was a star in Germany, and go back years later and coach and maybe not succeed and take away a little bit of that shining light of my playing career at that time. I really thought hard and long about it. And I even talked to Tony a couple times about it. I said, I'm not made to coach. It's not my thing. I love managing. I love personal interactions with people. I love motivating people. I love bringing people together, connecting the dots. And I just didn't feel at that time it was the right thing for me to do because I wasn't prepared. I hadn't coached for 10 years. I would need to go back and educate myself, and I wasn't prepared to do it at that time. So I got a call to go to play in this outdoor game in Germany, in Hanover, where their football team, 96, Hanover 96 plays, 47,000 people stadium. And it was going to be a celebrity game with Hanover Indians and Hanover Scorpions, who I'd played for, both teams actually. And they were having this big, huge event, and they wanted me to come back for it, and I did. And I can remember coming out into the stadium and looking up with a little bit of snow falling, and 47,000 people screaming my name as I'm coming. They screamed everybody's name, not just mine, but coming out, Goulet! And I thought I was going to drop to my knees because it was like heavenly. And at that game, after the game was done, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. I think, what the heck's going on here? So I looked down, and it's PJ, and that's how I have him in my phone. And PJ had asked me, Peter Hawthorne had asked me earlier, is there any possible way you could find us a coach? Because we've gone through some trials and tribulations with our organization. We want to go back to that North American system. We've had some Europeans who are phenomenal coaches, but we just felt with what's going on, we needed some support, and we wanted to find somebody from North America. And I gave him a bunch of names, and so before I left to Germany, I know they were working on a couple of projects, and one of those projects were a guy named Malcolm Sutherland, who is the co-founder of my Safe for Sports platform, the injury prevention, an incredible coach, incredible mentor. He was a perfect guy for it, but it just didn't fit. And so I guess that fell apart while I was here or over in Germany. And so I picked the phone up and I said, hey, PJ, what's going on? You find your guy? And he said, no, but the board of directors had a meeting and they asked, what about you? And I said, what about me? What about you doing it? What about doing what? What about you coaching? I said, PJ, I'm 63, bud. I've done it all. I've had a great life. I may have not made the pinnacle of the NHL, but, got to travel the world and do all the things that I do. And he says, before you say no, you can come. You'll have an office. It's the best rink in the planet, the best fans in South Pacific. You got to really think about it and talk to Tony. So I said, okay, give me a couple days. So Tony was with me in Germany. I said, Tony, I just got a weird call, and PJ's a pretty smart dude. He'd already called her and prepared her for it. So when I said to her, hey, I got this weird call from Peter saying, they didn't put a deal together for Malcolm and a couple other coaches, and they're asking if I would coach. And I could just see right then and there, it's a yes. She wanted to do it. I could see it. And I said, what do you think? I think it's a great idea. I said, you sure? Absolutely. I think it's really good. We've gone through this horrible couple of years with, losing some family members, an opportunity to have a fresh breath of air. And I thought about it, I said, you know what, you're right, let's do it. COVID had just finished, or still was part of our lives, but we're thinking we're coming out of the end. And there I was, I signed and popped here and struggled a bit at the beginning. Certain things happened right at the beginning of my tenure that I can't speak about that really changed the way I thought about my life, thought about ice hockey, thought about the sport I was so in love with and gave back so much. It really started to change the way I looked at things. So I needed to rethink where I was going to go with this. And I ended up having the opportunity to talk to my wife on a very serious conversation. And that conversation was about what's going to go on for the next 10 years of my life. And so we realized that it was important for me to be me again. And so while I was going through these problems, I always thought back of Robert Feldfors, a good friend of mine. His name is Robert Wine, who's still with us. He was in a very serious car accident that left him in a horrible shape, was brain damaged. His complete body was shattered. And I could only think about him, that he got off the mat and went to work every day. And that's what I did after 3 weeks of dealing with some situations here. I said, enough's enough. Let's turn this thing. Gooch. I could have laid there in the fetal position and decided not to. I decided that I would rise above it. And as you saw, you were a part of it, you probably saw, a lot of people are maybe even thinking, what's wrong with Goulet? And then all of a sudden, I had such support from so many people. Listen, I listened, a lot of people say that athletes or coaches don't listen to the newspaper or read the newspaper or listen to the TV or all that stuff. I did, unfortunately. I heard people in the background saying, worst coach ever to come to Melbourne Ice. And I was starting to believe it a little bit. I was starting to doubt myself. And once my wife showed up, I actually flew home and picked my wife up, and she got here. She helped ground me more. And so I got through the season. Thank you for the compliment at the end of the season. I thought we started to see this whole thing turn around. You just saw the promise in this organization. So over the summer, your summer, I went back and I educated myself. I went to King Heights Academy with our good friend Jeff Armorall and Justin Pekka and Doug Orr. They allowed me to be the assistant coach and get involved with kids under the age of 18 and understand the nuances of being a coach for younger kids and older adults. Paul Rosen automatically said, Gooch, I'm in, I want to be a part of it. And that really paved the way for me to understand the game better. I thought I knew it. I didn't. I needed to self-educate myself. I needed to upgrade my skills. Though I could talk the game, I didn't really maybe understand it in these nuances. So over the summer, your summer again, and my winter, I worked hard. I took courses, I read books. Again, I didn't read a lot of books, but more manuals than books. And Paul was there every step of the way helping me out, Justin Pekka, Malcolm Sutherland, they were all there wanting me to be successful because they knew I could be successful. And when we decided to come back, I had a 3-year deal, but I still have the option, to bow out if for any reason, with a family or health or other opportunities that come up. And I signed that contract with good faith to finish off 3 years, even though I came home kind of disjointed, maybe even disappointed in myself. I inherited the team. I didn't pick the team. And I had an opportunity over that summer and my winter to actually think about what type of player. And it's no disrespect to the players that were there for the first year. They didn't know me. They didn't know my personality. They didn't know my style. And I didn't know theirs. So you can't blame anybody if things didn't mesh right off the bat. And some people like me, some people don't. That's life. 85% of people like somebody because they're good at what they do. 15% don't like you. 10% don't like you because they've heard rumors. And 5% just don't like you. And so you have to go through it. And when you hear fans saying, you know, he's the shittiest coach in the history, you take it to heart. And so when I decided to come back, I knew that I had to come back better. And if I didn't, I wouldn't do you, I wouldn't do my players, I wouldn't do PJ, the management, the directors, any justice if I didn't come back and pay the dues that are needed to make me a better coach. And then finally, Tony and I talked about what could help me do that. And it was talking to my good friend, an Olympian 2006 in Torino, a guy that got off the mat many times, tried to commit suicide twice, won a gold medal, won the Order of Canada, has been just a rock in my relationship. I knew that I needed him to come with me and be a part of it. And Tony thought it was a fantastic idea. He's here today. And I honestly don't believe if I didn't have his support right from the beginning at the get-go, we wouldn't have gone 10-0. Having Brent Laver be the mentor coach, helping us look at it from 30,000 feet up really helped. But also Austin Lefkovich, you know, going from being a goaltender and stepping in and being my assistant coach, those three guys have just been the rock behind this club, allowing me to be me. I'm more of a presenter. I'm more of a motivational guy. I'm not great with the X and O's and all the tactics. Gretzky once said it, and it's of no thought me putting myself into Gretzky. It's more of what he said one day. Paul knows this. A reporter said to Gretzky, he was struggling as a coach. I don't know if you know it, in Arizona. And things were just not going his way. And the reporter said to him, hey, why are you guys struggling? And his answer was, you know, I look down the bench and I don't see me. And I thought, wow, that's pretty arrogant. Why would you say something like that? But then when you think about it, he came to the rink the first. He was on the ice at the first. He left the rink the latest. He was the last off the ice. And he was the greatest player on the planet. So I needed to find people that had that same passion. Not his talent, but wanted to be at the rink. I want them to walk through those doors. And as those doors up, just like Superman did when he jumped in the phone booth, he went in as a mortal, came out as a superhuman. That's what we need these guys to do. When they walk through those gates of an ice rink, they are an ice hockey player. That's it. Put everything aside for that time that they give us. And that's what I needed to do as a coach, and I wasn't doing that. And so all those things over the time I was away, talking with people, understanding it better, picking the right people. We've got a hell of a hockey club, whether we win it or we don't win it. I'll tell you what, I've never been in a dressing room that have better people. It's not me. It's not me. It's us. I can't win these games for it. Paul can't win the game for it. We can open the gate and direct the traffic. It's them that have to believe in themselves. And if they don't believe in themselves, I haven't done my job. And it's tough. You've got 22 personalities. And in the old days, you could Iron Mike. You can't do that anymore. You have to be somewhat of a psychologist. You have to be somewhat of a salesman. And so I learned all that coming through and being here today. I learned it was so important. First, get trust. Don't demand trust, earn trust. And get them to understand that I would go through a wall for them, so I know they'll go through a wall for me. And Paul and I both showed that. Right at the beginning, we had a camp. I don't know if you recall it, but we went off to this camp, and there was this 40-foot pole that we had to climb and jump off a swing. And both Paul and I are scared of heights. And Paul says, as he's seeing everybody going, Paul says, Gooch, you know, you and I are going to have to do this. I said, there's no way you're getting me to the top of that pole. And we both did it. Mine was miraculous. His was sensational. He did it with one leg, for God's sakes. So I think that really instilled in this team that you need to pay your dues. wait for your chance. You're going to get that chance. And when you get that chance, you got to go out and perform. And I think that's what we've seen with this ice hockey club. Even though we started off tremendous, one of the best starts in AIHL history, I know that a lot of people thought, wow, this is going to be, we're going to go undefeated. Pretty tough job. We did very good. We ran into some trials and tribulations, but what's really important is we didn't stop believing. Yeah, we had some problems, but we believed that we could get out of this. What we did in that 5 games that we lost, we forgot that we needed to outwork the opponent. It came too easy for us at the beginning. And so once we got back, obviously suspensions didn't help. Once we got everybody back playing, we all sat in the room and said, this is for us. This is for our family. This is for all the players today and past. This is for all the fans that have spent their hard-earned dollars to come here and watch us play. This is for all the volunteers and the videographers, the photographers, your whole team, Amanda and her game day. This is for them just as much as for us, and because it is a family, and that's what I believe in. My parents brought me up in a great family. Sure, we fought. Sure, we had problems, but we stuck together. And at the end of the day, who's better than having a great family? And that's what I have.
Absolutely. Well, we've been sitting a while now, and we haven't even opened up this beautiful bottle.
Well, I'll tell you what, we can't thank Urban Alley enough for allowing us to be here. As we were talking through all the things, it's always best when we have a little bit of a bubbly.
Yes. Cheers. Not only did you start of your first year of head coach for a then struggling team in a new league, but you also brought with you an incredible incentive to Australia with Marie Shaw and Angela Lightning in the introduction of the Tour of Hope. Now, the Tour of Hope was halfway through the season, I believe. Now, it was a cultural exchange for Indigenous youths from Canada and Australia, promoting hope for a better life through education and sport. Team Canada being represented by the Woodland Cree, Northern Ice, and Team Australia represented by the Kurana Boomerangs. In its second year, we saw the tour expand into New Zealand. An incredible and natural progression for the Tour of Hope. These games have been played in major cities all across Australia and New Zealand now, and were well received by fans and the communities. The games themselves were electric, they were entertaining, with a great showcase of skills from Indigenous players, from participating nations. It was an honour, an absolute honour to be part of this. Not only was hockey the focus for both teams, they were able to share cultural exchanges in taking part in smoking ceremonies, meeting foreign political and military dignitaries, AFL football club with Port Adelaide. Yep. With the success of the first 2 Tours of Hope now behind us, in the bag, it's been promoted with major news networks down here. We look forward to the next iteration of the Tour of Hope. What's planned? I know it's early. Yeah. We've just finished the second one. Yeah. But what is planned this time around? Is pressure mounting on our politicians to back programs? Can we see the Kurana Boomerangs maybe take journey over to Canada, be hosted by the Northern Ice in Canada?
Yeah. Well, so in its early inception of the concept, it was actually the Kurana Boomerangs. It was Marie Shaw who had this dream. When we came with the Ice Hockey Classic many years ago, she had already developed a program, an incredible program, where she took underprivileged and disadvantaged kids and got some ice hockey equipment and put them in gear and taught them how to skate. Through her being a KC, she learned the trials and tribulations of these young men and women who are coming from broken families, abusive families, families that have alcohol and drug issues. And she was able to take them and put them in an environment that the learning from ice hockey for them was, if you fell down, you had to get back up, because that's the only way you could play and skate. And her goal was to not pressure these kids into being great athletes or not being great students, but to participate, go to school. If you went to school and fulfilled your obligation, not with an A, but the effort, And you were then given the opportunity to come to the rink and play ice hockey. And think about it for a second. We're in a nation that ice hockey is probably sixth on the, it's more of a cult sport. So it's down in the ring of sports.
It's really niche, really.
It's a neat, very, very good. And so she had developed this concept to take these young boys and girls and give them an opportunity to play in something that not everybody can do. How many people in the world can skate? How many people can run and kick a football or run with a football? The percentages are huge. Disadvantaged kids that can skate. So she gave them that opportunity to be special. And that's what drove this thing. So long story short, she got the development of the ice hockey factory, and then all of a sudden she started to see Indigenous youth coming through the program, and she had enough to make the Garner Boomerangs. Once she did that, she had the aspirations to bring them over to North America. She had a young man who had played in Adelaide. He was an Indigenous young man from Saskatchewan. He had got the concept started with her. She got some government funding and sponsored fund, and they were going to host it in Saskatchewan in 2020 in January. And unfortunately, in December, our young man went on a walkabout because he was Indigenous, and they couldn't get things confirmed. She called me out of the blue. We had already got almost 120 sets of equipment donated by the National Hockey League Players Association with our good friend Matthew Langen. Matt did a great job in getting us that equipment. That allowed her to expand. And I made one phone call when she had called me that she needed some help. And I called a guy named Will Brooks in Edmonton, and he said, I got the program, called Angela Lightning. We brought them over in January 2020. It was an incredible event. These kids were left Adelaide at that time in January at plus 40, ended up coming off the plane at minus 43. They skated outdoors, and we knew this was the right thing to do. We had a great tour, and then we were planning to bring them back in July of 2020 to the Ice Hockey Classic and allow them play as the matinee game. It was all organized. And unfortunately, in March 2020, we all know COVID hit, and it ended that dream. We kept on planning to bring the Indigenous from Calling Lake, Wabasca, MD of Opportunity 17 stepped up and created a fund that would allow them. They came over here the first time, as you mentioned. It was a huge success. We thought, okay, let's try it again and introduce it to New Zealand. Wow. Absolutely incredible that these young boys and girls were able to not exchange just cultural experiences. Ice hockey was just a vehicle for us to have them play a game. But more importantly, it allowed them to understand they're not alone. And as you know, you mentioned, I'm fourth generation Métis. My great-great-great-grandfather married a full-blooded Cree, which then bloodlines. My grandfather was part of the residential school situation that was brought to our attention. Well over 200,000 kids were murdered by powers to be. A horrific story. We heard many stories of the stolen child, which happened here, Torrey Straits. Stories that were just horrific. We had along our journey, we were at a speaking engagement in Canberra where this young lady came out and spoke in her native tongue. We're all sitting in this theater-style facility. The elders, the older people on the tour, along with the young kids, myself and my wife Tony, listening to this young lady speak in her native tongue. I actually turned and saw the passion in the face of the elders. Some of them had tears in their eyes. We couldn't understand a word. And then this young lady, maybe 25, 30, she started dancing and singing, and then all of a sudden stopped, and then said, and now I'll tell you in English. And the story was about her grandmother, who in Torrey Straits wasn't recognized as a human. She was recognized as a plant until she was 12. My goodness, people. It's crazy. And I didn't know that I had this inherited bloodline that I should be proud of. My parents hid me from it. Not to discredit from my parents, but I would have been prejudiced. I was classified as a white, privileged kid playing ice hockey. I wasn't. I should be proud, as you are proud of your heritage. If I'm Irish, I drink Guinness and St. Paddy's Day. If I'm Jewish, I celebrate being a Jewish. If I'm French, I eat a baguette, smoke a cigarette, and drink some wine. Why should we not celebrate our indigenous? I know there's some people that are sick and tired of it, saying, God, it's too much. No, we do not know where we're going if we don't understand our past. We must understand it. We don't need to overextend financial gains and tradings of lands and all that stuff. That's not me. But what we need to understand is we did some injustice. Let's correct those injustices. Let our Indigenous young people have hope. That's why it's called the Tour of Hope. Allow those kids that are living on the reserves in Calling Lake, in Wabasca, throughout the entire world, whether you're in Canada, United States, whether you're here in New Zealand or Australia or in China, Tibet, wherever you are, these underprivileged kids need hope, and that's what the Tour of Hope meant. It allows them to understand they're not alone. It allows them to, as I was, able to use my skates, my platform, my sport, to be my passport to the world. Why can't we take them off the reserves and give them an opportunity to see the world is their oyster? And that's what the Tour of Hope is all about. It's giving them the opportunity to see, go back home and say, oh my God, we saw the Opera House. Oh, we were in the Canadian Consulate right over top of it. We got to see all these great things in Queenstown, going up and doing the luge down the mountain. Melbourne, obviously seeing the MCG. What a great opportunity. Seeing the Rod Laver Arena. Just all these great opportunities that this has brought. Us going in Adelaide and living the culture of the Ghana Boomerangs. Man, the Tour of Hope lives on. We will be doing some great things. Obviously, this one's over. We're already in the planning stages. We will keep you involved. You've been such a great inspiration. I know James has helped us with filming and doing live streams. Sam Trapolino back in Adelaide. Mari Shaw, she's a godsend to all of us. Angela Lightning, who is yet to be on the journey, has been fantastic. But the glue that holds the fabric together, Tony Meal, man, she's been fantastic. Danny Cahill this year, she did a great job in really promoting and helping us make it what it truly should be. There's so many great people to thank. It was a vision of mine to call it the Tour of Hope, to give people hope. This year, our goal, we had some issues. We couldn't get as many players as we want. A long story, but this year we had to take a couple of kids here. Tristan Fraser, who his father was part of the Stolen Child in Canada, was immigrated here, had his child, Tristan. He was an Ojibwe. He lives in the Ojibwe lifestyle. Think about it, the Ojibwe and the Cree back in the days hated each other and fought. Here he's playing with the Cree Nation. Our goalie, Becky Jennings, she came out to one of the Melbourne Ice Junior. We were struggling for a goaltender. I just said, hey, would you come and play with us? Little did I know this young lady had suffered from cancer and joined us. She had just been off of chemotherapy for 2 months. I thought the Tour of Hope meant more than just Indigenous. It meant everybody having hope, especially with cancer. And she came, she was a rock star, an absolute rock star. And during the tour, she had to fly home to find out some tests, whether or not the cancer came back, and it didn't. Man, life is good.
That's
To Becky.
to Becky. Cheers, Becky. Kerry, this year you've turned 65. We've an impressive array of jobs that you have, programs you're involved in. It's really enough to make the average person sort of a little bit squeamish. You seem to have shown no signs of slowing down whatsoever, which is, how could you not?
You got to see me skate.
Not only with the focus with your full-time head coach position with the Melbourne Ice, but you've also your hard work with the Tour of Hope, your rewrite of the book with StopConcussions. You're often seen hosting events, charity fundraisers. How do you juggle it all? What motivates you? And are you worried about burning out at all?
I should have burned out a long time ago. Listen, we're only given so many years on the planet. I got lots left, I hope, and I'm going to make the best of it. And what a lot of people ask, to all of us, what drives you? Like, what drives you? What drives Paul? What drives James? One loves the camera. One loves being a famous gold medalist. One is an absolutely, truly voice for radio. One of the best announcers. I've been around for a long time. So these things drive you. What drives me is to see that little smile on the face. Just to see that little kid. There's a little kid named Oliver Parkinson who's right behind the bench that I take time to say hello to him. It's like, oh my God, it's the Prime Minister of Australia saying hello. Not comparing myself to that, but just knowing that taking time out to make people smile, taking time out to people feel comfortable, to be warm. I'm a hugger. I love hugging. I think the world doesn't have enough hugs to go around. Why are we on this planet? We're on this planet to do good, to be better. I could, through some of my trials and tribulations, lay down and get in the fetal position and say it's over. But I would rise to the occasion because my mother wouldn't allow me to sit there and grovel over what has been not given to me. I've been given a lot. She taught me, if you earn $1, there's 25 cents of that dollar that can go to somebody that doesn't have the opportunity to raise that dollar. And we all know that you make your pathway. There are some people that don't have the opportunity, so let's help them give that opportunity. Until I am shut down and I can no longer do what I do, until I cannot walk, until I cannot give that hug, I will continue on trying to make the world a better place. Oh my God, Gooch. Oh God, my nickname's Gooch if you don't already know it. Oh, who do you think you are? We can change one life. We've changed the world because we don't know where that life will take them. One of the things that has been said to me often, my sister lived on the street. My sister, Paul would know it, he's been with them. He tried along with myself to keep this beautiful, lovely human being on the planet who had two gorgeous children. And I once said to her, looking at the pictures as she was going through her drug and alcohol, is that not enough? And you know what? It's not. My role is to make sure that we give everybody the opportunity of change. Yes, we're all going to make mistakes. There are going to be the forks in the road. Had I gone left, I wouldn't have been able to go right. What did left give me? It gave me my life. What happens if I did make the National Hockey League? Do I regret it? I can't, because I can't go back. And I think because of people like my wife, because of people like Paul and Malcolm Sutherland's in my life, they've allowed me, Barry Monroe's, Robert Wines, the Robert Velfor who we've lost, all those, Ronnie Ellis, all those people that helped give me the ability to understand why we're here. It's a fleeting moment. And on my grave, if they just write, he tried to make a difference, that's all I need. And I will continue on to try to make a difference. It's not alone. You can't do it alone. But if you step up and try to be the leader, some people, as you know in the world, 5% are leaders, 95% are followers. I want to think of myself as a leader, and I hope I can be that guy that can inspire and to create opportunities for other people to bring the best out of them. And that then makes them want to do the same. And it's 1, then it's 2, then it's 4, then it's 8. And all of a sudden you've got a nation that makes change. And so I hope that's my legacy. My legacy for Australia was always and will always be to leave the game better than where I was. And we all know the trials and tribulations of ice hockey at this moment in Australia. Again, nobody to blame other than ourselves. And I hope by the time I go back to Canada, the game is in a better state than it is today. And I truly believe it will. It can be, and it will be, because of great people, not only of yourself, but the others that are giving so much to this game, because it's the game I love, and the game I know you love.
Absolutely. Look, we just touched on it then, but most of this interview we have been talking about a lot of your accomplishments and a lot of life's ups. But as we know, life is rarely filled with just ups. Your own life has been encompassed with some terrible grief, from sports injuries and depression to the loss of your friends, including the recent passing of Ron Ellis, your parents and your sister Karen in 2019. Who had our own struggles, and it was incredibly important to take time to discuss these today, even though I know this will pain you to do so. However, as a role model, especially in the post-COVID climate, that we make time to share these, as most of what makes us who we are, they stem from our greatest challenges. For both of us, we grew up in a time where generational upbringings meant that people, especially men, didn't talk about mental health issues for a wide range of ridiculous reasons. However, at its core, usually coming for a fear of being ridiculed or even being rejected. Now times are starting to shift into a more self-aware climate where it's important that we show people that it's okay to be vulnerable, no matter where we are. Support services are available, and people who do care, because every person you meet is likely fighting a battle that you know nothing about. So compassion, empathy seems ever more crucial, even in the early stages of life. Now, I invite you now to speak on the challenges you faced, how they have affected you, and ways you have learnt to manage your hardships, and the things you have learned that you could pass on to someone who's watching here today, help with them overcoming their own battles.
Well, thank you. I actually thank you for that, because not enough people take the time to understand that we're like a book. And what we do is we look at this book, we look at the cover, and we judge it by saying, that's a book I want to read. And we do that with people. I look at you and I think a certain way, but I don't know you. So I'm going to judge you from your appearance. And if your appearance is the one I like, I'll gravitate to you. If it's one that I don't like, I may not gravitate, but you may be the best person in the world. And I think it's really important that people understand that this world, it's easy to be evil. It's really hard to be kind. And I learned at a young age, give me a hug. How does it feel?
It's warming.
It's warming. We tend to look at that, and we tend to look at our own, as you mentioned with grief. I've had grief. We all have grief. We're all going to lose a parent. We're all going to lose a close friend. We all won't lose maybe a sibling that's younger than you, but it happens. And we have to accept. And we all grieve in a different way. And my challenges in life far, far are less than 95% of the world. There are people today that are just starving. There are people like Robert Velford taught me the lesson. He's struggling just to breathe. He's struggling to put food down his mouth. I'm struggling to figure out what golf course I'm going to, or what restaurant I'm going to eat in, or what car I'm going to buy. So I think it's all in perspective. You've got to learn to fall down. You got to learn to get up. You got to learn you're going to have bad days and you're going to have good days. Don't take the highs too high. Don't take the lows too low. And there's a great song that's out right now. I'm not okay, barely getting by. Is that not what we all do? But there'll be days where you say, I'm not okay. But you know what? I'm going to stand up and I'm going to fight you. I'm going to fight my demons. Not everybody does that. Paul Rosen is a classic example. Twice attempted life. Twice. Thank God he wasn't very good at attempting it. He's here today to bring on his ability to educate and allow us to understand we can make a difference. He's made a difference to thousands and thousands of people. You, yourself, James, and the people that are doing this, you've changed people's lives, and you don't even know it. I get the accolades because I'm out there and I'm in front of the camera. A lot of people don't realize it takes just this. That person that's sitting on the floor, I didn't even know. My sister was living under a bridge. She had a $6 million home 2 years before, and she's living under a bridge. She was put in a clinic up in North Bay, and she was let go after a certain amount of time of rehab. And she was let out of that rehab center along with another girl. And they went and were told, it's time for you to go, with no plan. I didn't know this till years later when I lost my sister and we were having her wake at the bottom line, Wayne Calley, greatest guy on the planet, where Paul was there, all of her friends, all of my friends, and we were celebrating my sister's life. And we got an opportunity to talk. And just before I went on the microphone, one of the girls came up to me and said, Kerry, I just want to thank you. I want to thank you so much for having your sister in my life. And I said, I'm sorry, I don't know who you are. I'm X. And she said, I'm here only because of your sister. I said, of course you're coming here. No. I'm here on the planet because of your sister. I would have been long gone. When we were let out of that North Bay institution, they put us on the street and said, good luck. They didn't teach them the values. They didn't give them $1. They needed to go back out in the street. And my sister she was an interior decorator. She was one of those people that just could take nothing and make it spectacular. Arguably one of the wittiest, funniest, most intelligent, most desired human beings you would want to be around. And she'd fallen from the grace of God. She fell off the tracks after dealing with postpartum. None of us saw it. And I said, please tell me more. She said, when we left, your sister built a cardboard house for us in North Bay to keep the rain from falling on our heads. And she would then go out and use all of that. My sister was very, very manipulative. She could, if she was sitting here right today, she would tell you she was the CEO of a big company, and you wouldn't disbelieve her. She was able to adapt and figure things out. Unfortunately, demons became too much. And I think that loss helped me understand that once you fall off the tracks, unless you have good people around you, a good foundation like Paul has had, what Paul has given me, what my wife has given me, you're not able to truly understand who you are. And that's the important message that we all got to realize. That person that's there, that's begging for money. Yeah, there's some people that maybe are begging for money and leave that little spot and go over and jump in their Mercedes and drive away. But if that quarter keeps them alive for another day, for somebody else to find them and put them through rehab, and they get a life back, and they get to be with their parents, or they get to be with their loved ones, they get to hug their child again, or kiss the people that they love. If that quarter helps them for 1 second, and you are able to give it to them, why wouldn't you? And so let's stop this judging. Stop why we're doing what we're doing. Stop judging somebody that steps up and talks about these really delicate situations. Paul Rosen has been vulnerable. He's opened his life through his book, Never Give Up. Both of us, not a great education. I got to grade 12, as I mentioned. He says he got to grade 9, but I think more like 8. He wrote a book. You can do whatever you believe in. The only thing that stops you is you, not the people around there saying, you can't, you can't, you can't. Hey, you can. And we believe in you. And that's what I live my life around.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you, Kerry. Look, I appreciate that. Thank you. I know it's really hard to open up, but it's really important that we normalise these conversations, okay? We need to normalise these conversations around trauma and grief to really help combat this silent killer. And it is a silent killer.
It's an epidemic.
It is a silent epidemic. It is. But everybody deserves to be treated with love, respect, and equality, no matter who they are. Doesn't matter the colour of their skin, their background, their sexual orientation. Everybody deserves to be treated with love, respect, and equality.
Inclusion. Can I just say, as you, I know we're getting closer to the end of time, Donna McCarthy, who happens to be, was and still is one of my sister's best friends. She is actually the sister of my belated sister's husband, so a very complex dynamic. There is a documentary being put together. We're a little bit behind schedule about my sister's life. It's very graphic. It's very eye-opening. They videotaped a bunch of stuff on her downfall. I was part of that. They interviewed me at the time when she was going through these very rough times. I even forgot about it. I just recently saw the clip on me. It is going to be a documentary on a person that maybe nobody knows the name of, but so compelling, so entrenched in helping us understand the complexity of mental health. My sister had suffered from mental health issues. My mother had some mental health issues. My father just had some drinking issues. How did I become who I am without really being an addict to anything other than maybe Tim Hortons double-doubles? I've always been able to control those demons in my life that are there. We all have demons. I see one on the shoulder, but he's not able to get through to you because you believe in who you are. This documentary, I hope, will touch one life, just one, or two, maybe three, and it'll open the eyes, not just for the one that's struggling, but people like myself and the people like Paul who deal with it on a daily basis. The stories we hear, the people we've lost along the way. Three of my buddies in Winnipeg, I've just recently learned, committed suicide. They're under the age of 60. How? There are kids at the age of 10 and 12 years old committing suicide. Stop the madness. Stop the madness. We need to do something. We need to do it now. We need to collectively come together. And by you allowing me to open up and talk about, yep, there's pain. There's pain every time we talk about our past. We didn't jump on the bandwagon. We did because it's sexy to talk about concussions. I didn't get involved in it. I lived it. I didn't jump on the bandwagon to talk about mental health. I lived it. I've got friends that deal with it. I lost my sister over it. We are able to talk about it. We need to talk about it, and men specifically, because we are these gladiators. We bring home.
And we're providers. We're supposed to be the head of a family.
But you know what?
We're not only responsible for what we go through, but we're responsible for our significant other.
Yeah.
Our children.
Who made that rule?
It's just been passed down.
Right.
You're responsible for the pressures of the upkeep of the family home, your mortgage, your rates, your insurances, your registrations. We can barely look after ourselves.
Thank God I got Tony. She takes care of all of that.
We need
You're
to
right.
stop it.
You're right, and we will.
We need to break that stigma.
We will.
Look, every single person is fighting some sort of hell. Paul's fighting a hell. I'm fighting a hell. James going through a hell.
I can't see James is going through hell. Look at that kid.
Every single person is every person you likely meet is probably fighting a battle you know nothing about.
Yeah.
That's why it's really important that we show them some compassion, empathy.
Yeah.
If you're not, it might just be the straw that breaks the camel's back.
You got it. But that hug or that little donation may be the one that inspires them to make change in their life, and they truly get help. Ask for help. We're here to help. Help. Help is a four-letter word. It takes seconds to ask, but a lifelong of opportunity.
That's it. Look, for anyone watching this, if you yourself are going through anything that you are struggling with, just know that there are professional services available for you. In Australia, we have Lifeline. That's 13 11 14. Canada's Crisis Helpline on 988. There are Indigenous First Nation people help services in both Australia and Canada, and services available wherever you feel most comfortable. And that is it, where you feel most comfortable. If you're using one, it's not working, jump on board to another. Just never give up, keep going, okay? Keep fighting that fight. Look, what you're going through today does not mean you need to go through it tomorrow. Okay, a professional service might help. We can get through this. We need to change the way that we do it. I myself found support through professional services for things that I was battling, and I found relief in ice hockey. That worked for me. It really, really did. Last year, as a volunteer through Melbourne Ice, I've now got a new lease on life. I love the ice hockey community, and I have a desire to give back and help people in need. We're so blessed in Australia. We really, really are. As a nation, we attach ourselves to sports. As you mentioned earlier, we attach ourselves to sports. It's been one of our, ice hockey not being one of our major sports codes here in Australia. It's really small in comparison to other parts of the world. Everyone seems to know everyone. There's a double-edged blade. Negative news spreads like wildfire. There never seems to be anywhere to hide. On the flip side, however, it's a smaller community. There's never far a mentor or a helping hand.
No.
So it is really, really good. And to be honest, toxicity is quickly stamped out in favour for support and encouragement, as seen by the generosity of its members, supporters. Year after year, charity donations are breaking new heights every year. Attendance numbers are growing rapidly. Support towards programs such as the Tour of Hope have been so well received. The ice hockey community really rallied around sport and is growing in popularity. It's incredible rates, and thanks in part to your own efforts. It really, it seems, Kerry, you just can't miss at the moment. You really can't. Recognition befalling you at every turn, a true testament to your character. It also includes a third Hall of Fame induction being slated for this year. You're about to become the 2024 Rink of Dreams Hall of Fame inductee, following the likes of your great friend and Paralympic gold medalist, Paul Rosen.
We're looking forward to getting the rings.
Yeah, getting the rings together. He's also the co-host of the Gooch and Rosie show, and he was inducted in 2023.
How come him before me? It's the Gooch and Rosie show, not the Rosie Gooch show. God's sakes.
A lot's happened this year.
I guess I'm going to have to change it now.
Yeah, absolutely. Has it sunk in yet that you're about to become a 3-time Hall of Famer? What's that feeling like? What does it mean for you to hold in these honours, especially with people such as Paul Rosen? Yeah.
Well, thank you. Obviously, the Canadian Ball Hockey Hall of Fame induction was kind of a surprise. I remember getting the phone call, and ball hockey's basically where ice hockey is here in this country today. Kind of a low sport, but I played for Manitoba for many years and won the Canadian. And I got the phone call. I remember I just met Tony. We were, I think we just moved in together, and I thought that she had put one of my friends up to kind of, because I didn't even know there was a Canadian Ball Hockey Hall of Fame. So take the phone call. Hi, Kerry. Is this Kerry Goulet? Yes. I just want to let you know you've been inducted into the Canadian Ball Hockey Hall of Fame. And I remember kind of going away from the phone and saying, Tony, honestly, who'd you call? She says, no, I heard nothing. And I'm thinking, okay, whose garage is this thing in? Okay, so I go back. And he had heard me over. He said, no, this is real. And I did not know my line mate was inducted the year before, just like what's going on with Paul and I, Shane McKay. And I thought, wow. And so we went out to the festivities. My mother was still alive, and I got to spend that with Tony. It was incredible. And then this year, when I got the call, thanks to a guy named Scott Taylor, a true professional journalist, he had followed my career and knew that I had Indigenous blood, got me to be inducted in the Hockey Hall of Fame or Sports Hall of Fame, and I got to go home. I had to struggle because I needed to go back, and thank God I left Austin Lefkovich and Paul Rosen as the coach, because they went 3-0, I think, while I was away, or 2-0 while I was away, to extend that 10-game winning streak. And I remember being there thinking, wow, is this real? And it was real. It was something, because it wasn't real about me, but my signage was beside the great, legendary Terry Fox. And if you go back in history and even understand anything about Terry Fox in our country, he was a gentleman who also lost his leg and fought for cancer and ended up losing his battle in Thunder Bay, Ontario, where I had an opportunity to live and win an Allen Cup with a bunch of great guys, Thunder Bay Twins. And then to get the call, so being inducted with that, And there were other great recipients, but Terry Fox, wow, I didn't know A, he was from Winnipeg, and B, that he was Indigenous. And then all of a sudden I get the call from Barry Shelley from the Rink of Dreams to say, hey, you're being inducted in the Rink of Dreams Hockey Hall of Fame. And I knew, hang on a sec here, Paul Rosen was inducted in the Hockey Hall of Fame. And those two inductees, obviously we think about my trials and tribulations, zero compared to obviously Terry Fox and what Paul's gone through in his life, being a tremendous athlete, losing his leg at a very crucial state of mind, and being able to turn that into arguably one of the greatest goaltenders of all times. That to me is not only an honor, but a remarkable achievement in my life to be inducted with such great people. And wow, a lot of people don't get one. Me getting three, whether it's the Hockey Hall of Fame or the Sports Hall of Fame, the rink, it's a Hall of Fame, and they've acknowledged it, some of your achievements, but more importantly, what we've given back to the game that we love so much. I'm honored and humbled, and I can't say I'm speechless, but I'd like to say I'm speechless.
Oh, that's incredible. Yeah, look, you are right. Paul really is an incredible individual, and he's got an incredible story of his own. If anyone's pick up Paul's book,
Yeah,
pick it
never
up,
give
pick
up.
it up, never give up. Incredible.
You know what's crazy about? I want to just say about that. I want to tell you this story. I think if we have time, I think it's really important to understand. Paul, being the friend I was, that he is of mine, I was holding a ball hockey event to raise money for Shoot for a Cure, and the Canadian American Spinal Research Organization at StopConcussions. We had some pretty big stars there playing ball hockey with us, and Paul came, and of course, you know, I don't know who talks more, him or I, but it's close. And he's signing every single autograph, and you know, just promoting the love of the game. And he brought his gold medal and laid his gold medal down, and somebody stole it at my event. It's in his book, you got to read it. He then went through some trials and tribulations of his own, and I won't get into the specifics, but he tried to take his life. And I was on a flight, and you know when you're on a flight that you can put your phone onto a mode where you can get texts and that. Yeah. But I had not done that. My phone was ringing, and I keep looking, and holy shit. So I go down, and hello, and hi, is this Kerry? Yep. This is Paul Rosen's daughter. Are you in Toronto? I said, no, you know, I'm just flying back from London. I'm about 2 to 3 hours away. She said, Paul tried to commit suicide. Is there any way that you can maybe go and see him? And Tony and I, as soon as we landed, we raced straight to the I'm laughing because it is kind of funny when you think about it. When somebody takes their life, or tries to take their life, thank God he was terrible at doing it. I get there, and there he is in a bed, in a straitjacket, all tied up, locked up. And he, you know, just to see that, we were all in tears, but that he got back up, and that's where we learned that you can get back up.
Yeah.
You don't have to fall. So Paul got back up and went in this incredible journey and changed so many lives. And there were demons that he didn't deal with correctly. And you know, having my sister live with him and go through her, he was always giving and giving and giving. And sometimes you need to take. You need to have somebody give you love. And unfortunately, through his life, you know, whatever happened to him, he wrote the book, Never Give Up. And I don't know how many weeks or months later, here he is doing it again, trying to take his life. And we all could have quit on him and said, hey, never give up. And you just wrote a freaking book and you're giving up. Yeah. But he didn't give up. And he's here today to talk about it. And there's a reason for that. And so I think my trials have been meek or weak compared to it. And if guys like him and Terry Foxes and this young lady that played in net for the Tour of Hope, Tony's sister who battled with Parkinson's till the day she died, just wanted to live. I remember saying goodbye to my father, who had already 2 bags on his body, iliac conduit and a colostomy bag, just to live. And then they said they needed to put a fluorostomy bag on him to keep his liver or kidney going, or whatever it was. And I remember saying to him, do you want to go through this? And my dad said, let me live. I want to live to see more. And unfortunately, he didn't make it through it, but those are trials.
Yeah.
What I've lived are little pebbles in a road that we got to get over.
Yeah.
There's it's a vehicle to drive us over them.
Look, Paul is really easy to relate to. He's very welcoming. He's a personality that I've actually loved having here in Melbourne, Australia. And I'd love to see Paul maybe get involved with the Parry Hocker exhibition here with Bill Seagloff,
Yes.
Australia's Bill Seagloff.
Yeah.
Maybe even get some of the players to trade skates for sleds.
Yeah.
How cool would that be?
I tried that, almost killed myself. I got a true respect for what they do. Paul suffered well over 10 or 12 concussions just being a goalie, and they can shoot that puck at 80 kilometers an hour, even faster. He took a lot of shots to the head. That maybe explains why he is what he is, how he is. Paul has offered up his services. I know there are discussions right now for him to help para-hockey. We know that there are some stones in the way. We don't know how that's all going to play itself out. But certainly if there's anybody in this country at this moment that could help para-hockey, Bill Seagloff has already reached out to Paul. And I know that if the powers to be allow it, he will be in a sled helping their goaltenders be goaltenders and give. You can't. One of the things is a lot of people. I was there the day the Berlin Wall fell. I was actually there to see it and experience it. You can't buy that. You can't educate yourself. It's just there. That experience helped me be the person I am. Paul winning a gold medal in Torino when they weren't the favorites. That experience can be passed on to others. I hope they take that offer up.
Yeah, absolutely. As we said, you're now 65 with no signs of slowing down.
Yes.
One of your mottos that you've lived by, you mentioned earlier, I just want to go back over this, comes from the words of Robert Velfor. It's not what you collect along your journey. Championships, trophies, monies, cars. It's what you give back. It's going to be your legacy. What legacy do you wish to leave behind? What works are still remaining for you? What goals have you yet to achieve? And what can we expect from the great Kerry Goulet in the future?
Wow, great. I'm not sure I'm great. There are a lot of people that have done a lot more than I have in this world. But if I could just ask for all of us to be more compassionate, us to be a little bit more forgiving. We're all going to make mistakes. That's what life is. When you make a mistake, it's what you learn from it. And I think the most important thing is just to love. And it's an easy word. It's an easy word to say, just love. But it only takes a second. And I know that we were going through COVID and people were isolated and none of us knew what the hell was going on. And everybody was concerned. And I know Paul and I started our Gooch and Rosie show at that time called Gooch Live and featuring Paul Rosen, but there's no reason why he shouldn't be just as given the accolades that I am, because he's actually funny and knowledgeable too. People look back, and I'm a big component of hugs. And I remember it actually was Donna McCarthy that reminded me that I hug everybody, and sometimes to a fault. And I recall, what could I do with my little voice to help people through a time of isolation? And it's kind of funny, I took a puck and I put arms and legs on it, and I didn't do it personally because it would have been stickmen, and a smiley face. And I would send it out to all my friends and say, you need a hug today. And then when it was somebody that wasn't involved in hockey, I think if I'm not mistaken, it was a heart. And I just kept sending this out to everybody and anybody. And I can't tell you how many people came back and said, wow, Gooch, you're a weirdo. But the important thing about that is that a lot of people got forgotten. Yeah. And we did have a tremendous amount of people that went into mental health crisis. We had a lot of people take their lives because they didn't believe anybody was there. But that power of just sending that little message, pick up the phone. Pick up the phone right now. Phone somebody that you've maybe had a disagreement. Phone your mom, phone your dad if you don't have a great relationship with them. Just take the time out. Say hello to that person that you've never met before. You don't have to hug them. Just say hello and see what that can inspire. That could be the seed that plants the next great person in our world. It may be the next president of the United States. It could be the next Gandhi. It could be the next Mother Teresa. We don't know. It could be the next Paul Rosen or Terry Fox. If you take the time out just to care for 1 second, that could be the defining moment. So if I could do anything, I could ask you all, take a few minutes, a few seconds out of your busy schedule and just care. Just care. That's all you need to do.
That's a great message. Just care. That's great. And you had a bit of an issue with being called great. I'm going to stop you right there because going over some of these accolades, 3-time Hall of Famer, player, coach, general manager, author, global director of StopConcussions, podcaster, journalist. Not great? Come on, Kerry. You're great.
Good people behind me pulling me up.
But before we close out this wonderful evening, I'd like to thank you wholeheartedly. I truly do, Kerry, for opening up today, sharing not only great stories, but imparting incredible wisdom onto us all. I'd like to leave our closing statements with you, but before we do that, I'd like to pass on my utmost respects for all that you've done and what you are still doing. Now, it's also important, the sports bike community have turned up to cheer us
Yes.
on. Go sports bikes. It's also important that we extend those thanks to our wonderful host here at Urban Alley in Docklands.
Love Josh.
Yeah,
And the team.
Josh and the team are fantastic.
Yeah,
that Slapshot beer is
Yeah.
incredible. But also to our wonderful cameraman, James Dabowski.
There he is. James, go James.
Thank you, James, for everything. Paul Rosen, thank you for keeping us on our toes. But now on to you, Kerry. I'd like you to leave us with your final words to close out the evening.
Well, again, I'm honored and humbled that you would take time out to do this and interview me, to allow me to express who I really am, because a lot of people, it's an enigma sometimes that James took time out of his busy schedule to actually film this. I hope that whatever this brings, it brings a smile, a tear, or it brings you taking the time just to care for one person, one moment, a moment in time that we don't get back. Obviously, thanking the great community here as the Urban Alley, the fans of the Melbourne Ice. I think what's really important too for me is to understand there are a lot of fans that I gained around the world because of this great sport of ice hockey. Marco Sticknote and his family has been just nothing but a blessing in my world over in hockey. Michel Bertz, who battled with me when I had troubles in Timmendorf. My father, my surrogate father, Ron Ellis, who's up in the sky. But right now I have one that he was Helmut Vianden, who's struggling in Germany right at this moment, who took care of me along with his beautiful late wife, Annette. These are people that I can look back on and thank, and I think that's what we need to do. Take a time out. Just think of all those people that helped you do, whether you're great or not great, whether you think that you've been challenged or not challenged, whether you think your life has been a bed of roses or a bunch of spikes and walking on glass. I think it's really important that you are here now because of the people that have given you the opportunity to be here. That mother, that father, that best friend, that wife that I've been married twice, Nicole Schrugis, my first wife. I have nothing but respect and love for her, but I thank her allowing me to leave and finding my true love with Tony. So I think we need to think about that we're all daily, minute by minute, having life-changing opportunities. It's what you grasp out of it. Take it all in. Take whatever you've been given. You can be great. Yes, you're going to be thrown some curveballs in baseball, but learn how to hit that curveball. You may have lost a parent. You may have lost a leg. You may have lost an eye. But that doesn't define you. You know, Paul taught me a great lesson. People would say, oh, Paul, you're disabled. He's not disabled. He's abled. He won a gold medal at 41, 46. can't remember the date. He won a gold medal for our country. That's a pretty big challenge from going being a good hockey player to losing a leg and then becoming the best goaltender in the world. I'll leave it at this. My sister, who I loved and love every day, I lost her, but she's ingrained in my character. And she has given me hope that through her voice, that though we can't see her physically, she's still there every day. I remember the days going back to when I became a hockey player, and I told you about my mom. I forgot to mention that my brother Lawrence, who I love dearly, if you saw the three children together, completely different. One an athlete, one a very intellectual human being, one a geeky computer dude, and a great guy. I remember those days where we'd be down in the basement with a made-up goal net, and my sister being selected the goalie with Eaton catalogs taped to her, and a pillow on her chest, and a baseball glove, and some sort of broom that looked like a stick, and my brother and I taking shots at her. And I'll tell you what, she was a hell of a goaltender. And she was there at every moment, cheering me on to become the person I am. And I don't have her in my corner right now, but I know she's up above. Cherish that, guys. Cherish it. Losing your mom, losing your father, losing a sibling, man, losing your best friends. Take time out to say tonight, you love them, and they'll always be there with you. Thank you for taking time out with me, Parker. Love you.
Thank you.